My name is Alex Jiménez, and I'm a professor of conducting and director of orchestras at the College of Music. This particular concert, I had been thinking for a long time about doing this work. This is Ein Heldenleben, A Hero's Life, by Richard Strauss. This is a gigantic work. It is a tour de force for the orchestra. It's considered one of those holy grail type pieces for players, you know. And we've done big works here. It's not that we haven't done big works. We've done The Rite of Spring, and we've done Mahler's Fifth Symphony, and we've done, we can go on and on. But this particular work, I really wanted to do. I thought it was time for us to do this work. I didn't see any place where we had done it before my tenure, or during my tenure for sure. And this seemed like the season to do it. First of all, you know, it's a hero's life. This was the last tone poem. So a tone poem being described as a work for orchestra, usually in one continuous movement. In this case, there are sections, you know, sort of very definable sections, but we don't actually stop and then start a new movement. That describes something extra musical. So and he had written a series of tone poems over the previous 10, 11 years. And this is the culmination. And some of our viewers may be familiar with tone poems like Till Eulenspiegel, or Don Juan, for example, or Don Quixote. Again, these all have extra musical associations and music to sort of describe, you know, the narrative. In this case, in a hero's life, you know, many have said that he's really describing his own life. So there's a little bit of ego in this piece. It's kind of I've always seen it as a big ego piece, you know, but extraordinary, because what he does is that he brings, you know, there are images of, for example, musical images of his critics, you know, and they're represented by wind players cackling. There's this cackling wind thing that's going on, and those are, you know, imagine that must have really ticked off his critics, right? I mean, they really didn't like that. Or one of the most extraordinary concertmaster solos, you know, first violinist, extraordinary concertmaster solo that really represents his wife and the many sort of moods of his wife as well. Pretty colorful, you know, to think through that. There's a section, you know, in the second half of the work in which there are no less than 33 quotations of his previous works. Sort of a summation of all of these different works being brought in and out. So really, you are, as a listener, and we'll have good program notes for this, and I'll probably say a few things to the audience, you are really getting into his mind and his life and his attitude. You know, it's as if Strauss were standing right here and he was talking to you, which is what's so amazing about that work. We want you to enjoy this, and we want you to feel free to enjoy this and let this sound swallow you up and take you places where you might not have known before, with no preconceived notions about where you should be or shouldn't be. And I think that's really the power of great music. And Strauss himself, you know, often said he didn't want to be so terribly descriptive about his tone poems, because although sure, maybe Till Eulenspiegel was describing a 15th century rogue brat, you know, always getting in trouble, what he really wanted was for that sort of nugget to be interpreted by each individual based on their own experiences. If they heard it, you know, oh gosh, I can connect with that experience or that experience. We have another work on the program. It's going to feature one of our faculty pianists, Ian Hobson, performing the Mozart Piano Concerto No. 23, K488. It's a beautiful work, you know, like so many of his concerti, and you know, that typical Mozartian way of creating beautiful rhythmic propulsion as well as beautiful lyricism, and the relationship between the piano and the orchestra is just absolutely pristine. And of course, Ian Hobson is of course one of the great pianists of our time, and so the opportunity for our students to get a chance to work with him is really pretty spectacular.